Its lead sentient being is to develop fearlessness. And let's look at the initial verse. Bodhisattva's affinities are with all sentient beings. Okay, so we are very clear about that. So we have to walk among sentient beings with the power of fearlessness that give rise to compassion. Now, I think this power of fearlessness, it's obviously when there is an obstacle or there's an impediment in front of us. So let us try to then understand what this impediment is. Now, if we want to break down as to why there is an obstacle in front of us, it's actually that impediment or the fear of the unknown, right? We don't know what it is. And it actually goes back to, and the whole teaching is about the state of mind of what it is. So because we do not know, or we see that an obstacle, we set an obstruction, therefore we are fearful. But for the Bodhisattva, they are fearless. So because we need that fearlessness, and obviously Master shared a lot of story of how the Tzu Chi volunteers have actually went through all the difficulties in serving others. But in our daily life, this fearlessness must also apply, right? So that we live with its virtue in us. But fearless also doesn't mean you need to be, do not fear that the result in foolishness, and which I will try to go into in the contemplation later. Adapting to the threefold karma of all beings that benefit all with peace and joy, and bring them to a state of fearlessness. So if one is able to purify oneself through purification and then renounce our attachments and affliction of the body, speech, and mind, therefore we will then be in a state of fearlessness and be able to have inner peace and inner joy in us. So in Master's explanation, bodhisattvas arise because of suffering sentient beings, and that's the reason why there's the aspiration. That is the vow, the first bodhisattva vow that we undertake, is to help deliver all sentient beings. So in so doing, and that's why, because the bodhisattvas are around. So to give oneself while among sentient beings is not an easy matter. So because we have to go through a lot of challenges, it's a tough road. And that's why we take the ox cart, right? It's the ox cart that we will also take on the burden to relieve the suffering of sentient beings. But we must, as we do this, in addition to compassion, we must also have wisdom. And this is the part that the wisdom, that the fearlessness must apply with wisdom. So same thing with compassion. So on top of having wisdom, they need fearlessness. And so it's both then we will need. So then they have a courage and willingness to dedicate themselves to help sentient beings in hardship and in need, and giving rise to compassion and benefit all with peace and joy, to bring them the state of fearlessness. So no matter what the difficulty, hindrances in front of us, we are able to do that. We're willing to do that. So this power of fearlessness, it's in the mindset. And that's what we need to do. So we got to grow into that consciousness, to be able to do that. And bodhisattvas, and the reason why they're able to conquer that fear within them is because they cannot bear to sentient beings to be suffering. So bodhisattvas cannot bear to sentient beings, so to create all delusions and karma, and thus suffer from the cyclic existence. So in all this fight, otherwise, if one can fight destinies and heavily being suffer from all afflictions of gain and loss. And I also tell me this suffering, afflictions, etc. Now, I know of someone that I know for many years, and obviously, he is a very high practitioner, a high cultivator. But for some reason, the wife is the opposite. And so in terms of the body, speech, and mind, it's totally opposite. And so, but that's the affinity of the life. So so what happened was that in this particular group that I'm in, so this one other Lama brother, different one, also have a similar situation. But then this guy is his character. I must say that he's not an easy character. So I can understand sometimes why the wife is also not easy. But so he was sharing with me one day. He went to speak to the elder as to, share the problems that he had. So, and he was actually quite taken aback. And all he said was, the elder said, if I do not bear that all that she is doing, I know that she's very afflicted. I know that she's very hurtful in her ways. And if I leave her alone, they said, you know what? They said, I'm afraid she may go to hell. So therefore, if I'm walking the path, I should be practicing this. So those words that were shared with the younger one and came and shared with me. And he said, you know what? He said those words are so simple like as transform him. So therefore, this is the part that when we walk the path, we must be able to practice despite whatever difficulties one has. So therefore, bodhisattvas help others' minds to attain a state of safety. But the interesting thing is, after many, many decades now, I must say that the wife actually transformed. Okay, so and this is what the courage that we need to walk this path. And not only we transform ourselves, we need to transform others. And this is the state of fearlessness that we need to have. So, for during the Buddha's time, obviously Buddha went through different types of religion and practices, and some of them make things very difficult for him. And some of them, they were also jealous in Buddha's spiritual attainment. So he went through many difficulties. Even when the time he was a Buddha, he had Devadatta who tried to make things difficult for him. In fact, Devadatta also tried to kill him. But to him, all this had no fear of all difficulties, and he worked undauntingly. And so but he sacrificed his life, he lived his life for the benefit of others. And that's what we are trying to emulate. And so the Buddha's vows gave him the virtue of fearlessness. And so therefore, with the faith and the courage that we have, we've got to walk the path without hindrances. And Master went on to say that, referring to this, there's a chapter on skillful means, and it refers to meaning limitless and unhindered powers and fearlessness. So when we apply skillful means in the path, we need to have this virtue with us. And in so doing, we also need to have the discerning wisdom to be able to walk the path, fearlessness, but not being foolish at the same time. So an ignorant one does not fear what is in front because one is not aware of the hidden dangers and does not know what one is doing, that being ignorant. So, there was once I was, when I was working, I was traveling a little bit, and it was many years ago. This was decades ago, and this was in Taiwan. Actually, I was in Taipei, and I was there for I think a couple of nights. And it's quite common for me to, before I retire to a night. So when you're traveling, you tend to have late dinners with my colleagues in Taipei, and obviously by the time I finished wind down, and so I went to bed. And I still remember before I wind down, sometimes I read a little bit, or I will contemplate, and then I'll go to bed. So I look at the clock. It was almost 12 o'clock. Interesting. I switched off the lights, and the bed started to move. And so the bed was moving and vibrating, and I stayed for a while. And I said, look, I told myself at that split moment, look, if you are a practitioner, why are you fearful of this? So I stayed there for a while, but it was still moving. So I turned on the lights and I beat the bed and I said, look, stop it. This is enough. Now, at that moment in time, I have two choices to ask myself. I go down to the reception, ask to change the room, or I will remain in the room. If I'm a practitioner, I say I will remain in the room. So I'm not sure whether I was ignorant or otherwise. So I remain in the room. And so I tried to go to bed. But the thing was, I can't sleep with the lights on. Okay. So I was tossing between sleeping, waking up, sleeping up throughout the night. So you can imagine that I didn't sleep very well during the night. So I thought, okay, great. I have been through that state, and I said I would not leave the room, and I did not leave the room. Okay. So obviously, there were some vibration that continued, but I made my mind, and that's the end of the matter. I stayed there. And you know what? The next morning was so groggy. So next morning, my other colleague, I had breakfast with him, and so he said, "Let's sit down there." And I was so groggy, I can't remember. You won't know what happened last night. You know what he said? He said, "Chin, do you notice that there was an earthquake last night?" So that was my ignorance. Okay, ignorance fool that I was. Okay, a wise one is fearless of what is in front because he's aware of the hidden dangers and knows what to do. Okay. So in contemplation, so I have the courage and strength to grow and evolve in your practice through wisdom learning. So with courage, you have no fear, and with strength, you have no weaknesses. So the story I gave to you about when I was in Taipei. I mean, that fear is all in the mind, isn't it? And that I created. So I have to battle to overcome that. Okay, Gan En, brothers and sisters, that's all I have. Thank you.
Gan En so much, Brother Chin, for the marvelous sharing and the beautiful story. Okay, can we...
But I haven't shared with you the real experiences.
The real fearful one. This is just the surface only, is it? I think there are more.
This is the lighter part, the joke part.
Yeah, the joke part only lah. Yeah. All these hotel scary stories. Yeah.
The others